Okay, so a year ago, I made a video on my channel. It was called something like I'd sold 112 notebooks in 13 days. It has been a whole year, at least a whole year of those books selling on Amazon, and I wanted to do an update for those books. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the results that I've had from selling notebooks on Amazon for over a year now. We'll take a look at the costs that are associated with doing this. We'll take a look at the type of advertising campaigns I had the most success with. We'll talk about how I actually made those books sell, because let's be honest, notebooks is an incredibly competitive niche, and whether they are still selling, whether it was worth it. And I'm going to have a huge section at the end of this video, which is going to solve a shit ton of problems for you, which is going to be my natural KDP progression plan that you can follow and save yourself a ton of money. So let's go to my account now and take a look at the results first and foremost to see how these books have performed since September of 2022. So as you can see, from 6 books, we've sold 1,543 units, and advertising campaigns, we're going to minus the advertising campaigns of that to work out how many of these are organic sales. So we have 2 different campaigns, and I'll go into these in a bit more detail throughout the video. We have one campaign here that sold 158 copies in its lifetime, and we have one that sold 162 in its lifetime. So we're looking at over 300. So we're going to minus the 300 from that. We're going to get around 1,200 sales organically, and the profit for that is probably going to be somewhere around I don't actually know because I don't really care, but it's between 1 and 2,000 probably. And the reason that I'm making this video is because the book scene and the low content book scene never seems to go away. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I know people that are making great money from selling them. Just go through YouTube and take a look at some of the exposure that selling notebooks, blank books, or journals or whatever has had, even in the last couple years. Is if you look at these channels, they have literal millions and millions and millions of views just from 1 or 2 videos. So collectively across the entire internet, the exposure for low content books, notebooks, and publishing on Amazon in general is absolutely huge. So we're going to make the assumption at this point that the niches are going to be, especially notebooks, because they're so easy to create, they're going to be incredibly competitive. So as we go through this video, we're going to be able to take a look at how I've managed to keep my advertising campaigns going for my 6 notebooks, and how I actually managed to stand out in these kind of super competitive niches, and whether I think it's all going to be worth it for you or not. And also, if you ever come across these type of videos, I can 100% promise you these people are not making money from selling notebooks, let alone the amounts that they have in their thumbnails. So we need to proceed. If we're going to do this, we need to proceed with some reality. So as we go through this video, things are going to get more and more practical, but I just want to talk about the cost that was associated, because for me, what I preach on my channel is that I like to go into more competitive niches, books that are harder to create. So for me, it's coloring books, but I completely understand that having a hand-drawn coloring book made is going to be quite expensive for some people. And you're going to see at the end of the video, when I do the plan section, why this actually might be a viable pursuit for you if you're a beginner. So the ongoing ad spend, as you can see, I think I've actually just made this up from the 2 campaigns, was around $400. That's the initial that's the ongoing ad spend over the course of well over a year. And the initial amount that we spent was probably around $80 for these books. So out of the 6 books that I had, 2 of them started performing well. So always remember, any type of book that you publish on Amazon, it is going to be to some extent a numbers game. But what we don't want to have is a scenario where we are just throwing as much shit against the wall and hoping that some of it sticks, because you're going to be one of these people that has 6,000 million billion books on their account, making $100 a month in total, which is a waste of your life. So the cost of these covers, if I remember correctly, I hired someone from Upwork. It was around $20 per cover. They did them within about an hour, which ended up being obviously $120. So you'd want to minus that off at the expense as well. So the profit, I don't know. Like I said, I don't care. It's probably 1,000 to 2,000 over the course of a year, which granted is quite nice for the amount of work that goes into it. But this whole notebook thing for me, it's not been something that I've wanted to continue doing because I really don't feel passionate about it. It was just to make a point that you can make pretty much any type of book sell if you do it correctly, which is what we're going to take a look at in the next section, how I've actually managed to make those books sell. So before we do that, since we're doing more of an informative video today, let's take a look at the type of campaigns that we're running for these books. So I feel like it is always important to talk about advertising, the spend of the ads, and the type of ads that we're running as well, because this is something people go absolutely wild over. In my honest opinion is that if you're doing low content books, low priced books, your campaigns don't matter as much as you think, and you really need to be doing the absolute basic type of advertising campaigns, which is going to be automatic campaigns. I spoke about this in my last couple of videos. Go watch my last few videos, the last two videos especially. They're the most important. The last video that I did was the most important video you can watch. But watch this one first, obviously. But I just do automatic campaigns, and I did one of them as one of those kind of lottery campaigns as well. So you will hear people, when it comes to advertising campaigns, you will hear people shitting on automatic ads. You will hear them shitting on manual ads. You'll hear them blah 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 with product targeting ads. You will hear them every type of advertising campaign. You will hear information that from one person to the other that contradicts themselves. Okay, so the reality behind that is because there's not going to be one type of advertising campaign that is just going to magically work for everyone. And if there was one, it's called an automatic campaign, which if you're watching this, if you've been doing KDP for a while, you will know that is the most basic, most boring advertising campaign where Amazon targets the keywords and products for you. So just coming into my account here, back onto the campaigns, you'll see that this is an automatic campaign where we have just one of the books in this campaign, and this one is an automatic campaign that has all 6 of the books in them. Okay, so as you can see, both automatic. The cost per click has gone down to a really super low amount over time. So we started 29 cent. Actually, that's not very high at all, but we have managed to get it down to 17 cent. And the cost per click is probably slightly on the lower side because it is like a niche down type of book. And on this one as well, you're going to be able to see the cost per click is 15 cent, which has been the result of running the advertising campaigns for so long. I could probably reduce these slightly even more down to maybe 17 cent. But if you're still feeling a bit confused about how I'm managing to get like a low cost per click, or how I'm managing to get my automatic ads targeting the correct niche, the correct audience, then make sure that you go and watch the last video that I produced on my channel. I can't remember what it's called. It's got a red thumbnail. I'll link it somewhere. I'll put it on the screen. It's going to show you the importance of setting your book up from day one. And when you set your book up correctly with proper keywords, etc., from day one, you can have a much easier time when it comes to running your automatic campaigns. You're not going to have to worry about fancy advertising strategies or anything like that. So that's what I did with these books. I just had automatic campaigns running. And what's amazing about this is that these campaigns, these are my longest running campaigns. Like, so a lot of the time I will just cancel campaigns when they start going a bit bad, but these have been consistently good for like, well over a year now. And again, I've heard people saying that you can't run automatic campaigns for a prolonged period, but I beg to differ. I mean, granted, we're at 20% ACOS and 26% ACOS, which is pretty much around the break-even point, but it's additional sales to our book, which if we're not losing money, any additional sale is going to be good. Okay, and honestly, I can promise you, stop messing around with manual campaigns. Like, I know that they can be good. I know that product targeting campaigns can be good, but if you're struggling, if you're a beginner, go watch my last video. Go watch the last one, the red thumbnail. It's going to tell you how to set your book up from day one so that you can run automatic campaigns successfully. Obviously, it's not a given. Nothing is a given, but it's going to help you save a ton of money with your ads. So that's the type of campaigns that I was running for these books. So let's get into the more practical side of things for this video, and how did I actually make these books sell? So the niche is mega competitive. Like, the notebook side of Amazon is incredibly competitive. The exposure, as you saw at the start of this video, is just wild in its millions. And the one thing that I can already hear people typing onto their keyboards is that you've only managed to make sales because it was 2022. Honestly, people have been saying that since like when I started 2012. People have been using that excuse for such a very, very long time. And honestly, the time period when these books are published probably doesn't really matter that much. Although saying that, with the introduction of AI, these books would be incredibly easy to make. So I think now this period is maybe going to be slightly affected by that, but still, it's not the point. Now, the reason that these books were selling, and to clarify here, I really didn't differentiate these books that much at all. What I preach on my channel is that you need to be different. You need to have like a unique selling point, or you need to be better than your competition. But there is a third option as well. Now, ideally, you would have all of these factors working for you. But what I was doing was really thoughtfully thinking about the keyword implementation. So again, if you want to go and watch my last video where I talk about how to actually use the keywords for your title and your subtitle in order to get your book ranked quickly, go and watch that. But that was one of the main things for getting myself that early visibility and sticking around on the front page for over a year for the keywords that I have picked. Okay, so super powerful. Go watch that, like I say, after this video. But this was one of the reasons why I managed to make a lot of my books actually sell. And also on top of this, I tend to have a ranking plan as well. So if I can come and just show you my account for a new book that I've recently published, this is gonna help you out massively. So when I launch my books, I always pretty much tend to have a ranking plan. So to clarify, like my most successful books were published in the last year, and this is a new book that I'm publishing. So if I didn't believe this, I wouldn't be doing this myself. This is a coloring book case study. Sorry, this is a coloring book one that I'm doing a case study on. Some of you watching this have got access to this. I've just updated it today. It's going to be released very, very soon, so keep a lookout for that. But back to the ranking plan. Now, I always have a ranking plan for every single book that I publish from day one that the book goes live. I think to myself, how much money am I willing to spend over the course of the first month to assess the potential for a book? So, for example, and I don't think I can go back and show you the notebook campaigns. That's why I'm doing it for a new one here. So, for example, I'm spending, as you can see, $71 here. Now, what I'm doing from day number one is just monitoring to see if there is some indication that this book has got potential on Amazon's marketplace. So the way that I'm doing that after the first few weeks is looking at the clicks versus the orders. So typically I like to go for 1 in 12. We're just under that. But in January, that's going to be fine because everyone's ads are performing like shit at the moment. So that's actually not bad. So that gives me that confidence going forward that this book might be worth working on. Now, if I did not have any conversions, or I had 2 conversions from 140 clicks, there is probably something very wrong with the book, and I would probably change something, or I would end the project as soon as possible to save myself a ton of money. So one of the other things that I'm doing to give myself confidence in a book, and this is what I was doing with the notebooks as well, was to check and see if I was getting rankings for the keywords in my title and my subtitle. Again, go watch my other video after this, you'll see why. And then whilst doing this, whilst you're launching your book, you compare your advertising sales versus your organic sales to see if your organic rankings are actually resulting in a customer buying a book from you. So if they're not, if you see that you have rankings on Amazon and you're not getting organic sales and you're getting advertising sales only, it probably means that your book in the organic sense on Amazon isn't appealing enough. So again, I've said this a million times in my videos. What I like to do is for my advertising campaigns, I filter by clicks versus the cost per click. And then what I like to do is slowly reduce and play this kind of balancing game between the cost per click and the clicks that I'm getting over time. And we're going to get this kind of crossover point where we're going to establish what the best cost per click we can get from this book is while still getting clicks to the book. So what you can see is that I've reduced this one down all the way down to 39 cents, and we're still getting clicks at 39 cents, which means I can probably reduce the cost per click down even further, ever so slightly, and to the point where we're maybe getting 6 or 7 clicks. And then I'm going to be happy with that amount to just stay for the long term. Okay, so that's one of the ways I managed to get a low cost per click for those books as well. So this all kind of ties into my ranking plan where I am monitoring all the keywords, monitoring my budget, checking out my organic sales, checking out the clicks versus the orders, making sure the cost per click isn't too high. I don't ever go over like 80 cent. If you run ads for in a low content book or medium content book or a low price book, if you are just refusing to not run ads for anything less than $1 because you can't get that cost per click, then I think you're going to lose money basically. So as you can see from the notebooks here, now this has been going for much longer, so the data is going to look a little bit different, is that since the advertising campaigns were down to such a low cost per click at 15 cent, the average cost per click, as you can see here, we just left them going because why not? Like, if you're leaving a campaign going that's $1 cost per click, then you're stupid. But if you leave it going for 15 cent, you're not really going to be losing hardly any money. You're going to get a ton of clicks. You're still going to be getting those sales over time. And I'll just pair this with the orders so you can see the orders actually start going down from month to month to month to month here until December. So even though there's clicks coming in, we're not spending much. And even though there's no orders coming in, we're still getting organic because we had this nice launch period here. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense. I actually have an unreleased 6-step launch formula course where I do the whole thing, the whole process with another book. I've not really decided to release that. I'm not wild about selling courses, but if it's something that you're interested in me actually releasing, then leave a comment and I'll look into it. But at the moment it's not there. But like I say, if you want it, let's do it. So like I say, that's the ranking plan. We monitor the spend, we monitor the keywords, and we just keep tracking to see how our book is doing. Obviously, aside from that, you need to make sure that your book is in a niche that has buyer traffic going to it as well. So with that in mind, are those books still selling and was it worth it? So yes, the books are still selling. They've sold around 20 to 30 copies this month so far. Now, they have died off since 2022, and I think this is probably going to be due to the two factors being the introduction of AI, where people can make these books very, very easily. And of course, there was a price increase on Amazon last year as well. And I can see from my historic data that that did indeed affect those books. So I have actually dropped the price on them to see if we can start gaining more sales. But they're still making between 20, 30, 40, 50 sales a month, which is going to be around $50, $60, $70 per month of profit, which is quite nice. The advertising costs are incredibly low now at this point because they have established on the first page for their niche. So in that sense, yes, it was worth it. And I think it could be worth it for a lot of people that are new to KDP and people that are struggling to see any sales in their accounts. Now, I heavily preach on my channel that people should stay away from notebooks and low content books because the amount of people making great money from that is quite small. Granted, there are definitely people doing it, but I'm going to show you in the KDP progression plan at the end of this video why I think it could be the start of a life-changing pursuit for you and how I'm going to go about doing that, how I would go about doing that, and how I am doing that currently. So if you're at this point in the video and you're thinking to yourself, well, there's no actionable information in this video, what I'm going to add now is some kind of quick fire tips that are going to help you if you are deciding to sell notebooks on Amazon or any type of low content book. So let's take a look at some tips for publishing low content books in 2024, if this is going to be the route that you're going to take, or if it's going to be something that you just want to test to get yourself started with publishing. First and foremost, you need to manage your expectations. Obviously, the income claims made by people, especially at the start of this video, are crazy. Like, it's so unrealistic to expect to make thousands of dollars a month from publishing low content books. Yes, it can be done. Yes, there are some people making 20, 30, 40,000, but these people are truly the exceptions. You will have a higher chance of selling medium content books and higher content books, I can promise you. So you need to think of it this way, like the easier something is to create, the more competition there's going to be, and therefore the harder it is to make your book sell. So that is obviously going to be the case with notebooks because most people can use Bookbolt or Tangent templates and just get the interiors and then start shoving out covers like 20, 30, 40 a month. And sometimes people do hundreds of these type of books every single month, even though I think there is a cap on the amount that you can do. There's still going to be a lot of these books on Amazon. So from there, what you can do is to mix niches to gather more rankings for search terms. So this is not just something that is relevant to notebooks and low content books. This is something you can do for any type of book that you're publishing. So if it makes sense, if we come over to Amazon here and search for a composition notebook, if it makes sense to kind of mix niches together, then you can definitely do that. And over time, you're going to start hopefully getting ranked for those specific types of terms. So for example, if you see books that are vintage and floral, you can mix those together. If you see ones that have, you'll probably see like mushrooms and frogs and things like that. You can mix all these niches together and start creating your kind of own aesthetic niche. For example, if you saw that you had books with frogs on them that were selling and books with jellyfish on them selling, for example, you could kind of mix those two together and sort of target both kind of audiences, if that makes sense. So the other thing that you can do when it comes to journals and notebooks and all these type of books is that you need to think of this as being something that's probably going to be gifted to people. So if you think of it from that perspective, if you look at these kind of funny type of sweary type book covers that you're not going to be able to run ads to, by the way, these are the type of things that people impulsively buy for other people as gifts. I don't think they're funny. I don't think they're any good at all. But this works. I've tested this before where you do like funny swear words on pretty simple book covers. And if you get rankings for them, you can stand out and make sales. I don't necessarily recommend it because I think people should really invest a lot of time into learning advertising, and with these type of books you can't do it. But if you are just starting out and you want to give yourself a chance of making some sales organically, then you can look into creating something that is potentially going to be given as a gift, because who in their right mind buys this for themselves? Maybe they do, but I think it's more likely, especially during Q4, that these type of books are going to be gifted to other people. So with that in mind, for any type of book that you're publishing, I recommend that you do all of your research on Amazon. Like, there are tons of niche research tools. I just don't use them. I don't believe that they are what are most effective for people that want to make good money on Amazon. Yes, you can use them to get inspiration, but ultimately, I think you should end all your research back on Amazon. And the tool that I use the most is called DS Amazon Quick View. So what DS Amazon Quick View does, as you can see here, if you install it, it's going to show the BSRs of the books underneath the thumbnails so that you don't have to go into each book individually to take a look at the BSRs. So regarding the BSRs, like typically for these type of niches, you want to look at books that are consistently under 100,000 with the BSR number. But really, if you're doing low content books just for the sake of practice and you're going to be doing more than just one of them, then really you can look for BSRs that are like under 500,000 and just be realistic with the amount of sales that you can expect to make with that, which is going to be very few. So from there, as I kind of always preach in most of my videos, is that you want to be different, you want to be better, or you want to be different and better. I didn't really do that for mine. I think when I did these at the time, they were slightly better than the competition. So when I got ranked, people were obviously opting to click on mine and buy mine ahead of some of the competitors' books. And honestly, the competition is so large with these type of books that it's more important than ever that you are being different or being better than your competition so that you can stand out. So from there, I would, for any type of book, I would always just use logical search terms in your title and your subtitle. People seem to forget that Amazon is a keyword-based search platform. So if you're looking for something specific, they will type that specific thing into Amazon to try and find it. So when you're creating your book title and your subtitle, you want to use those logical search terms there to guide customers in direction of your book. So, for example, if you are creating a botanical composition notebook or something, then the logical search term for that people are probably searching for is going to be something like botanical composition notebook. I would personally go ahead and use the main search term like that in the title for my book, and then have the other search terms that I want to also get found for in the subtitle as well. So if we were creating this type of botanical composition notebook and we were doing that whole kind of cross niching thing, then in the subtitle I'd look at including things like whatever other elements in there that people are potentially searching for. So flowers, animals, frogs, vintage, whatever the other search terms that you want to try and get ranked for, I'd start including them in the subtitle for my book. So the other thing that you can do, and I know that a lot of people really hate these type of campaigns, but the campaigns that I had the most success with were actually for this niche anyway, were those lottery type of campaigns where you just batch a ton of your books into the same automatic campaign, set the automatic campaign for a low bid, and then just see what happens. So really, if you're just starting and you are doing this, then the chances are that you're not like fully into Amazon KDP at the moment as like your main way of trying to earn income. You're just trying to see some sales to your books. So really, these type of campaigns, they're going to be absolutely fine. And the reason that people don't like these is because you're targeting multiple books with multiple search terms, right? So that makes sense. But if you're just starting off and you know what your budget is, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with like trying to lowball Amazon, going for a lower cost per click for these type of books and just shoving them into like a lottery campaign and just seeing what happens, because the result can be quite good, as you saw from my account. So those are just a few tips for your low content book pursuits. Now, what I want to do now for the end of this video is do my progression plan. So a lot of people, in my opinion, are just doing Amazon in the complete reverse way that they should be doing it. And this comes down to probably people like me who preach the idea of creating high quality books, running advertising campaigns, getting into competitive niches. The problem is that I've been doing this for a long time, and most people watching this have not been doing it for a long time. So when people who have not been doing this for a long time try and jump into the deep end, it's going to be much harder to see the type of results that maybe I've seen or other people that have been doing this for a while have seen as well. So naturally, you should progress, in my opinion, to that stage. Now, I am not at the stage where my final stage. I'm going to show you what the final stage for me will be, and hopefully for you as well. But let's go through this now. So regarding notebooks, like the whole thing, as you saw from my account, like it's fine. Like, yes, you can do loads of these, you can get creative, you can use it to test your keywords and all sorts of things. Like if you're an illustrator, especially on a low budget, your notebook can be your canvas for creating whatever you want and just testing publishing books onto Amazon. So the progression here is that if you're new or if you're struggling to make sales, then I would start with notebooks and journals. It's a great way to enter into the world of self-publishing because you can lower your budget. You don't have to spend any money on ads, but you'd also have to lower your expectations alongside that as well. If you don't have any money to invest into advertising campaigns or beautiful book covers, you really have to lower those expectations, and you can start looking at creating those type of books that are going to be gifted during Q4, especially, or during Valentine's. But bear this in mind that if you don't have any kind of plan, you don't have a budget for advertising, and you're just trying to do this organically, then you will fall down that path, that rabbit hole of just throwing books onto Amazon and hoping for the best. That's not what I preach. But if you're starting off, you can definitely just start putting books out there and seeing how things go and hoping for organic sales. Okay. That's the kind of first stage that I think a lot of people should be at. So from there, once you've established that you have the ability to go through and press that publish button, a lot of people really struggle to get past that point. Once you're there, you can actually start looking at niching your books down. So targeting a more specific audience. So for example, if you have your notebooks already, you've just been producing a few and doing whatever you want, you can go from there and start niching down and targeting people that are interested in, let's just say, frogs or animals or flowers or the whole vintage thing or whatever it is. You can start niching down and targeting a more specific audience. So once you start niching down and targeting a more specific audience, then I'd recommend that you start running very budget advertising campaigns. So on top of that, whilst you're running those ads, you can start tracking the keywords for your books. And again, you're going to want to watch the last video that I made. But for example, once you've published your book and you understand how to put the keywords into your title and your subtitle, what I would do is start running those ads. And then when you start seeing some sales to your books from your ads, what you want to do is to see how those sales affect your rankings on Amazon. So for example, if you're creating a botanical composition notebook or whatever it is, so let's say it's a botanical composition notebook, what you're going to want to do after you've published your book is just to keep tracking to see where your book is being ranked for that search term. So after you get a few sales, you're going to start seeing rankings for your book onto Amazon, and you just go through, see where your book is and get an idea, get a feel of how many sales you need to get ranked. And and how your title and your subtitle and your back-end keywords actually affect your rankings on Amazon. Just keep checking these things, and the more you do this, the better understanding you're going to have on Amazon, and the more thoughtful your approach is going to be when it comes to publishing your next book. So from there, once you've started tracking and getting a better understanding of niches and keywords and advertising and things like that, and how it all affects your ranking on Amazon, what I would personally do and what I've been doing myself and what I did myself was to actually start getting into niches where the books are harder to create. So if you watch my channel, you know that I promote certain types of software. It's only software that I believe in and actually use myself. And using certain software is a great way to reduce the amount that you are spending when it comes to creating a book, because typically these type of books, especially what I'll show you in a second, they will take a high investment to have this outsourced. It'll take a long time to create yourself. So the value that you get when it comes to buying software, I'm not going to recommend specifically any software because there's loads out there that can help you create books. It's just the next natural progression for me, because after that, what I looked at doing was getting into producing like premium type coloring books, which cost me a lot of money to have made, right? So that's not viable for a lot of people. I'll talk about that in a second. But for example, we did a case study recently on a kindergarten math workbook, and I showed you it's this one here. I was showing people inside of the case study how I was getting ranked for these, and I have software that I use, and I recommend that people do purchase some form of software if they are looking to get into these type of niches. And for me, I started getting into the whole early education thing because yes, obviously the competition is going to be less. Yes, there is some investment that is involved, but that's the way that I sort of naturally progressed into getting away from doing the whole low content book scene. So like I say, I'm not going to recommend any particular type of software, but the ones that I use, that I talk about and promote openly, I've got no problem promoting software that I use or believe in. There's tons out there though, so you'd obviously have to find whatever works for you in the niche that you're interested in creating books in. So from there, what I think the progression should be is that you, at this point, you should be running with your end goal. So my end goal, I've already decided it. I like doing the early education stuff as more of a passion project. It's something that I feel I like people buying a book and feeling like it's helped their child, for example. I like that. But my end goal has always been to run with the coloring book thing. Like it's where most of my income comes from. It's what I feel not that passionate about, but I feel great about having these type of books made, and I like having them made. I like producing more of them. I like working on the covers. I like working with the illustrators that do them. I like the whole branding aspect of it. So for me, I create trying to create this brand at the moment for coloring books. I have a website and capturing emails that I'm then going to promote new books to. That's the stage that I'm at. I've created an email list that I think is 350 people for the brand that I've been working on. So for me, and this is the point I would hope a lot of people get to here, is that you start running with your end goal and truly working on that, because I'll show you at the end of this that you can, and I know people that have actively sold their publishing account for a lot of money, that could be your very end goal. But from there, I've kind of done this in the reverse order, where the first book that I created was actually a high content book. That took me months to write. Now, if you're not writing this type of book yourself, it is going to take a lot of money. There are channels, really great channels, that talk about high content books, but you have to be aware that if you're going to outsource this, it's going to take a lot of money. So realistically, you probably don't want this to be your first project. But the great thing about high content books is that you can have them as ebooks, paperback, hardback, and also the audio versions as well. So you can create one book and have multiple income streams for that. I only have very limited experience with this. I have like 2 or 3 high content books which do really well. If you're interested in high content books, there's a couple great channels I recommend. You can check out Sean Dowett and Barry something. If you just type Barry KDP into YouTube, you'll find his videos. He does high content stuff, I think. Really good videos, both of them. You can check them out. Now, getting more into 2024, I've got a feeling. I woke up one morning and had the feeling that TikTok is going to absolutely take over the internet more so than it has already. and it's going to be absolutely massive because I already know factually that TikTok is blowing up completely. Now, there are some people already making good money selling their books to TikTok. I have not done this yet, so I can't speak factually, but you would have to take a look at the trend of how TikTok is going in particular. There are kids, like literal kids, making hundreds of thousands of dollars from TikTok because the organic push that you can get on TikTok is absolutely insane. You also have the ability to work with influencers to promote your books. You can also run TikTok ads. You can also have a TikTok store as well. I don't know how that works for selling books. I'm still looking into it, but I promise you, if you want to learn a skill that has the potential to earn you a lot of money, look into video editing, short form videos. This year, 2024, TikTok, and I'm going to try and get into it. And when I get that information, it will be the best information that you have and will show results for TikTok marketing, especially for books. And then, of course, you have your exit plan, which I spoke about briefly. Once you build up your account, you have the ability to sell that. I actually worked out what my account is worth at the moment, and it's a lot, but it's not worth it for me at this point to have like this, this bailout and exit and sell the account. It's not worth it for me, but that is the kind of end goal if you were that way inclined. So yeah, that's it for this video. Those are my results. Those are my strategies for low content books, and those are my future plans. This is the progression that I think a lot of people should run with in the long term. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in a video very soon.